My name's Lockie, this is Coast Watch Football, and here is my 2021-22 A-League Men's Team of the Season. While there were many really impressive goalkeeping performances around the A-League this season, for me, it's Western United's Jamie Young. Of course, winning the A-League Championship, Jamie Young did not miss a single minute of football throughout the whole season for Western United and was super consistent, keeping many clean sheets, making saves, and making some crucial saves for his sides, especially early on in the season. I mean, those saves literally won the game for his side. In finals time too, he came up big time, specifically that performance in the elimination final against Wellington Phoenix. Some of those saves he made were just insane. Jumping into the back four now, and for my team of the season, I'm going to go for a 4-3-3 formation, but right back, I've got Lewis Miller. For me, it was between Miller and Javi Lopez. Javi Lopez had a fantastic season for Adelaide, but Lewis Miller made such a big improvement this season and has just grown so much over the last few years in the A-League playing at Central Coast Mariners. And this season really was, for me, the breakout season for Lewis Miller. He really took his game to another level, added a level of physicality that we hadn't seen before from him, and especially in attack, I mean, his ability going forward. I remember early on in the season at home to Sydney FC, he was just tearing that Sydney FC left-sided defense apart. I mean, he's so direct and loves taking players on. And defensively as well, he's tightened up aspects of his game as well. But Lewis Miller, certainly for me, a future Socceroos right back. The first central defender for me has to be Leo Lacroix. I mean, he was an absolute beast this season. Arrived in Australia, and from basically round one, he was just showing his class. With his height, with his strength, and his ball-playing ability too. His distribution was really, really good as well. He formed a really good partnership, whether it was alongside Tomoki Imai for much of the season, but for Nikolai Topper-Stanley, who he was playing alongside as well. Leo Lacroix was one of the top imports this season in the A-League, and for me, one of the top centre-backs. Alongside him, I've got Melbourne City's Curtis Good. Good had a fantastic season. Of course, won the championship with Melbourne City last season and winning the premiership with them this year, and he was a big reason as to why they managed to get there in the end to hold on to first place. He's just so consistent at the back, and again, is such a well-rounded defender and super reliable as well too. He rarely makes mistakes. There were a couple other centre-backs I was tossing up with to potentially partner Leo Lacroix at the back there, but you'll see who I've mentioned on the bench in just a second. Left back, I'm going for my third Western United player already in this team, Ben Garuccio. Again, this was a tough one. I was considering putting Jason Davidson in there, but Ben Garuccio, similar to sort of Lewis Miller, a player that we already knew at A-League level, really took his game to new heights under John Aloisi. I mean, Ben Garuccio in defense and in attack too, contributing with a number of assists and of course scoring that famous Scorpion goal, which won goal of the season this year in the A-League. It's really interesting watching his journey. I mean, a player who's sort of like been in the system for a while, and it was interesting, the fact that he was at Melbourne City last year and was basically sort of the reserve left back in that side, and watching him now play for Western United. It's a shame that he wasn't playing more first-team football last year, because we saw his ability. And, if he keeps performing like this, there could be a Socceroos call-up on the way. Time to jump into the midfield now, and starting it off, I've got Jay O'Shea, which may or may not be an eyebrow-raising selection. But when you look at what Jay O'Shea did for his Brisbane Roar side, yes, they didn't have the best season overall, but one player who performed at a really good level, week in, week out, so consistently, was Jay O'Shea. The Irishman was orchestrating everything for his side, was the king of the assists. I mean, was teeing up everything. There were, games here and there where Brisbane looked really, really good, and Jay O'Shea was at the center of everything. And rightly so. I mean, off the back of this, another great season for him. He got the All-Stars pick, which was well-deserved as well. And I have seen this brought up by you guys a lot, but a lot of people have said that if Jay O'Shea, was in a team like a Melbourne City Victory or Sydney FC, maybe he would be rated highly among the league. For me, he's one of the best midfielders in the competition, one of the best passers in the league for sure. The second player in my three-man midfield is Florent Berenguer. Had a fantastic season for Melbourne City, scoring goals, assisting goals, and similar to sort of Jay O'Shea, really orchestrating stuff for his side. Berenguer, I probably loved having three, fantastic attackers in front of him in Matt Leckie, Jamie McLaren, and Andrew Naboot. I mean, Florent Berenguer, again, taking his game to another level, has been in the A-League for a few seasons, but this, well and truly for me, was his best season. And completing the midfield for me is Melbourne Victory's Jake Brimmer. Won the Johnny Warren medal, of course, and was well deserved. Again, super consistent throughout the whole campaign. campaign. And again, just yet another example of a player who stepped up under a new coach. Of course, Jake Brimmer, was part of that side who picked up the wooden spoon for victory last year. But this season, he was really thrust into that role as that number 10, a really important position, especially when you look at sort of the other players that were around him. And Jake Brimmer, stepped up big time. He just showed his class, his passing ability, his free kick ability as well, scored some fantastic free kicks over this season. He was sort of the set piece master for Melbourne victory and was a big reason as to why they almost picked up the premiership this year. It's time to talk about the front three now, and I've been a bit flexible with the positioning, as you'll see. First of all, I put him on the right-hand side, but Daniel Pena has to be in the team of the season. When you look at where Newcastle Jets were a year ago, finishing second last, they needed, creative players. They needed new attacking players. And Newcastle have a history of bringing in players from overseas that haven't quite settled in, it hasn't quite worked out for them. But Daniel Pena was fantastic all year round for Newcastle Jets, and one of the most exciting players to watch in the league. He made the perfect introduction to Australian football fans in that FFA Cup playoff early on in the season, scoring that fantastic free kick away to Western United, and just continued to perform and entertain Australian crowds, man. Just his flair, his ability on the ball, and he was super mobile too. He'd be dropping deep, he'd be getting forward, combining with Beckham Mikeltadze, the wingers as well. Even though the Jets didn't make the finals this year, Daniel Pena, just based off his individual performances alone, deserves to be in this team of the season for me. On the left-hand side, I've got more of an out-and-out winger here, and it's Craig Goodwin from Adelaide United. It has to be. For me, he was one of the best players in the A-League this season, was the star man for the Reds, and again, probably his best A-League season that he's had. We know Craig Goodwin. He's been involved in the A-League system for years now, was such a major factor as to why Adelaide managed to finish in the top four this season. I think back to his heroics away to Sydney FC when they came back to win 3-2. He's a class player with his delivery of the ball, and some of the signings that I think Adelaide made, especially mid-season. I look to Hiroshi Ibisuki, the tall Japanese striker. That really played it to Goodwin's strengths. How many times did we see Craig Goodwin whipping in crosses, whipping in free kicks for the likes of Ibisuki, George Blackwood, these guys to tap those goals home. And Goodwin, of course, chipping in with a number of goals himself as well. And then finishing off the team of the season for me, it is the Golden Boot winner, Jamie McLaren. And again, this one's probably up to debate, even though he did, of course, score the most goals this season. There were a number of strikers who did perform well. We're going to talk about my bench in just a second. A class player shows up in the big games. Of course, didn't show up in the biggest one of all, the grand final, but scored a goal in that second leg semi to send his team through to the grand final. And when you look at the season as a whole, he was the most consistent striker. He's always there to put the chances away and built some good combinations with the Socceroos teammates, Matt Leckie, Andrew Nabout, and spearheaded that dangerous City attacking front three. But let's talk about my bench now, and here's some of the players that I thought missed out. Mark Birighitti, superb season for Central Coast Mariners, was massive for them. I thought Roderick Miranda was incredible in the centre of defence for Melbourne victory, especially towards the end of the season, put in some mammoth performances. Kyle Rolls again, taking his game to another level, and now a Socceroo. For the midfielders, I've got Anthony Caceres. Even though Sydney FC massively underperformed this season, I thought Anthony Caceres took his game to another level. A really exciting season for him. Josh Brillante, just super consistent in midfield as well for Melbourne victory. And I've got two strikers on my bench. First of all, Beckham Mikeltadze had a fantastic season for Newcastle Jets, bagging a number of goals and had a great partnership with Daniel Pena in attack. And Jason Cummings. I almost put Nick D'Agostino in there, but I think when you look at the impact that Jason Cummings made when he arrived at Central Coast Mariners, I don't know if there's another player who had a bigger impact this season when it comes to a signing who arrived and performed immediately. Bagging 10 goals for the Central Coast Mariners this season, and it's exciting to see what Jason Cummings is going to do with a full preseason under his belt, a full season next year at Central Coast Mariners in the A-League. So there you have it. There is my team of the season for 2021-22. Drop your team of the season down in the comments. Who did I miss? Who are you putting in your team of the year? Let me know. If you have enjoyed, make sure you hit the like button. My name is Lockie. This is Coach Football. See you in the next one.